Welcome to another episode of Witty CFB. Your host, Rob Sheply here. And on today's episode, we will be discussing the Big 12 championship, and we have a special guest on, David Talks Buffs. David, it's great to have you on, and I've been really looking forward to having you on here talking Big 12 football and the Colorado Buffs.
Rob, it's an honor, man. I'm looking forward to this. I was hoping we could get something going eventually. Big fan of your work, and hopefully there's some subscribers that come along your way. You're putting in a ton of work, a lot of quality content, and it means a lot to partner up with you. We'll definitely need to do this more often, especially as we get into the off season. But thanks again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the praise. And, you have your own college football show too, mainly covering the Colorado Buffs. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that too? And, obviously we're going to have the description to your show and Twitter and everything like that too for everybody to be able to follow as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I talk about the Colorado Buffaloes, America's team. I'm just going to come out and say it. That might ruffle some feathers, but we try to have some fun on David Talks Buffs. It's just a fun place where you'll get my opinion, my reaction. I love talking with people in the comments. I love trolling. I love being serious. I love not being serious, not taking yourself, too seriously. I have a lot of fun. Somehow I've published almost 1,000 videos over the last 2 years on the Colorado Buffaloes. So if you want to know all the little details on what's going on from a perspective of somebody who is, lived in the area, went to the school. I just moved down to Texas. Come and subscribe. Come and say hi. We're on our way to 12,000 subscribers and world domination, Rob.
I appreciate you sharing that with the audience too. And, it's good that you mentioned having that balance between, having fun with the show, but also, having, sprinkling some serious content in there, but also being able to, interact with your audience too, and just kind of finding that happy medium, right?
Absolutely. The conversation is what makes it fun.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. We'll start with talking about Colorado, and obviously you watched the Kansas game, and needless to say, Colorado struggled tremendously in terms of particularly stopping the run. I mean, Devin Neal, obviously he's a dog. He's fierce. He's athletic. He knows how to break tackles, and that was kind of the storyline going into this game. And now Kansas has won 3 in a row versus top 25 teams. So, what are some of your takeaways in terms of that game? And how do you think that this loss translates into their game this week as they take on a really tough Oklahoma State game?
Yeah, well, it's a heartbreaker, man, because we had control of our destiny. If you didn't know this, Rob, we haven't won a bowl game since 2004 when Joel Klatt was quarterback. I mean, we have not been in conference contention for a very long time outside of the 10-win season in 2016 when we won the Pac-12 South. These types of situations have been far and few between throughout my lifetime as a Buffs fan. So when we just play our worst game of the year defensively, it was on my birthday too, man. Like, what a lump of coal on my birthday.
How fitting is that?
And I don't know, I don't think it was like anything, honestly, like schematically that Kansas did, but they played like a team that had their bowl eligibility on the line. Like, they came out there with way more intensity, way more confidence. I mean, they should have been confident having knocked off 2 ranked opponents, the last 2 games that they've played. And I don't know if it was something like, when Michael Jordan was playing the Jazz in Utah, something was in the pizza. I don't know what that whole thing was, but we came out lethargic. We never had a punch, for them. And it's just so crazy, Rob, that this defense has been the strong point of our team throughout the season, like the most consistent, and they didn't punt once. They scored on every drive they had, aside from the last drive of the game where they took a knee. If that doesn't tell you how perfectly Kansas executed their game plan and their offense, I mean, I don't know what does. They put up 37 points. They earned it. They absolutely should be proud of how they've played. And honestly, Rob, they were kind of a surprise for me at the beginning of the season with how poorly they were playing. They were giving up a lot of leads in the fourth quarter, and I think a lot of people saw them as a contender coming into this season. And I think it was just a little too late before they started playing, I think kind of how we all expected. But as a Buffs fan, they still started to peak a little too early, if you ask me. That was a tough one, but nonetheless, it should make for a wild weekend with the Big 12 because it is absolutely chaotic, and there's a lot of things that can still happen here with who gets to the championship game.
And we've talked about this off camera too, just in terms of Colorado's sort of, journey going into the Big 12, right? Because beginning of the season, the big storyline was obviously, hey, Shador and Travis Hunter, they have every God-given ability to be able to, move the football and lead them. But at the end of the day, when you have trouble with the pass protection and obviously the transition with Robert Livingston being able to, run that offense first time as a defensive coordinator, obviously you're going to have some growing pains there. So for them to kind of put this all together and to kind of put up this game versus Kansas in many ways, just like you articulated a couple seconds ago, they played much better as that sort of like dark horse where, people are always kind of doubting them in that sense too, right? Because, even Dion said it after the press conference after the Kansas game. I think in talk to what success was, I think was the phrase he used, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We must have just been feeling ourselves a little too much. And it sucks to see us like, I was talking on Friday before the game in my live stream, just how we need to come play pissed off because Kansas, they're going to come and try and take everything that we've worked for and overcome. And we've had things going in our right way. And throughout the season, now it's time to take hold of it. And it's been kind of funny, Rob, like looking at the Big 12 as a whole. Who are the teams that everybody wanted to crap on? Who are the teams that everybody was saying want to do anything? Not only was it Colorado to finish in the bottom of the conference, Arizona State, they were crapped on. No one was expecting anything from Sam Leavitt, Kenny Dillingham, those guys. We can talk about BYU. People were talking about BYU being a bottom dweller of the conference, and they've been playing fantastic. So it's been fun from like a parity perspective to see a lot of these dark horse teams pop up and really prove a lot of people wrong this year to be in contention for the conference title. And I think that, this might upset some of these college football fans from the blue blood conferences, from the Big Ten, from the SEC, those big earners.
The homers.
Yeah, but, the Big 12, I'm just going to say, the deepest conference in college football, pound for pound, baby. It's a gauntlet. Chris Kleiman's right. We're being punished for playing 9 conference games against 9 good teams every season. But like more seriously, like this has just been, it's a really fun conference. It's wide open and it's entertaining football on both sides of the ball. I have loved watching Big 12 football this year.
And it's great that you mentioned just the depth that the Big 12 has too. Because even at the beginning of the season, when I was previewing the Big 12, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, hey, who are these going to be the top teams? Instantly, you think of Utah, considering that, Kyle Whittingham's kind of having his sort of, supposed to be perhaps his last season where perhaps they win the Big 12 title, maybe go to a playoff game, and then he could ride off to the sunset and then hand the keys off to Scaly. And then you think about tough teams like Kansas State, for example, who is a gritty team, and you have Avery Johnson there, who is going to be the backbone of this offense, moving forward for the next couple seasons too. And when you look at this week 14 here, it's really a 4-team race, but mathematically speaking, of course, there's technically 9. I'm not going to get into every little scenario in terms of how this could happen, but Right now, just a brief summary for everyone listening, in order for everyone's roadmap to get in. So if Iowa State and Arizona State, as long as they win, they're in the Big 12 championship. For BYU to get in, they need to win, and then they either need a loss from Arizona State or Iowa State. And then Colorado gets in by obviously winning their game versus Oklahoma State. And then they have to have either Arizona State, Iowa State, or BYU. They need 2 of those 3 teams to lose. So as you're looking at these matchups here, I'll throw them out here real quick just so you're on top of your head. So you got Oklahoma State versus Colorado, Kansas versus Baylor, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Arizona State versus Arizona, TCU versus Cincinnati, Kansas State versus Iowa State, and Houston and BYU. So, with those matchups kind of in your brain, what are your general thoughts about Colorado coming into Oklahoma State? And also, any of those matchups that are, kind of intriguing to you in particular?
Yeah, well, starting with Colorado versus Oklahoma State. This is our last home game, obviously. It's senior day, so we got to win. We got to win. There's a lot on the line. We can still, regardless of what happens with our postseason future, we're going to a bowl game, which I've been saying, Travis and Shore are going to play. Like, this is a family thing. They're going to play. So they're going to do that. But, we still got double-digit wins to get to. So I think we will bounce back. We're undefeated after a loss. We always get a win after a loss right now, which is awesome. And, Rob, this is very important because we need a stud running back next year with Julian Lewis probably being behind center. I'm sick of having to go against these schools with amazing running backs, Cam Scadaboo, DJ Giddens, all that, RJ Harvey. Could Ollie Gordon enter the portal? Might he be going on his first unofficial visit to the Colorado Buffaloes this week for a little preview? I would like to see it. But we got to take care of business to give ourselves a shot. I think you got the statistics here at the bottom. The odds are not good, man, for us making it. I would probably go with the odds right now of seeing Arizona State as well as Iowa State in the conference championship, which nonetheless would be very entertaining. I'm a big fan of what Kenny Dillingham's doing at Arizona State. But hey, there's always a chance for some buff luck. But not feeling great about it right now. But if we're not going to win the conference, I want to see Arizona State win it. Nobody believed in them to start this year. It's been awesome to see Sam Levitt play the way that he has. Former Buff Jordan Tyson could be 1,000-yard receiver after this week with double-digit touchdowns. He's been great to watch. And of course, Cam Scadaboo. Yeah.
The autograph thing was hilarious watching too. After that third touchdown he had against BYU, I was instantly thinking of Terrell Owens when that happened.
Yes, yeah, and he plays with a lot of swagger, man. Like, always been a fan of Jordan Tyson. No hard feelings with him leaving. With Coach Prime coming in, it's been great to see him have success. And but it's going to be an entertaining weekend, man. And I think, like, Brett Yormark as conference commissioner, this is how he wants it, man. He wants everybody paying attention to every matchup throughout the season. And I can't think of a better way to end the conference play with more than half of your teams still in the race mathematically. That is insanity.
Yeah, and it's a testament to how well, a lot of these teams have kind of transitioned in the sense of, everyone, I think way too many people have kind of dismissed the Big 12 as sort of being that in between of being a power conference versus being a group conference. But when you see these matchups and you see these games every week happening, everybody was kind of thinking to themselves, oh, Texas, Oklahoma's gone. I guess the Big 12 doesn't really matter anymore. But after watching these games and you see just how many just the different looks, exactly what you said, like Arizona State and Kansas primarily being running teams. Then you look at teams like Colorado and Oklahoma State and Texas Tech who love to throw the ball, and at least Oklahoma State and Texas Tech play no defense whatsoever. So no matter what you're into, there's something for everybody. And I think that's one thing, no matter where in the country you are, that's something that you can appreciate.
Yeah. And a lot of these programs, man, they're built in like a blue collar way. Like, they're, right now the Big 12 isn't filled with a bunch of blue bloods, and a lot of these programs, to get to where they've been at, like, they've done it the quote unquote right way. Like, they recruit, not blue chip names, and they develop, they run the football, they do things creatively. Like, watching the BYU offense, they're not throwing it around like it's an air raid, but I mean, there's a ton of stuff going on. Pre-snap, they put some option in there, which is really entertaining. And like things get creative in the Big 12. It's a really fun brand of football, and it doesn't get the respect that it deserves as a conference. Like, I don't think so. It's been strange to see, even in my opinion, the ACC get kind of more favoritism right now in terms of how the conference is perceived than the Big 12. It is what it is, but this is why I'm like, Brett Yormark, you got to do something different. I think we're always going to be looked upon lower than where we're at as long as we have the Big 12 name. Maybe we're in time where we need a rebrand, man, because this can't be collegiate athletics. This always bothered me, Rob. Can't be collegiate athletics and have the conference name not reflect the number of teams in the conference, man. Like, that has never made any sense to me. You see it with the Big 10 now with 18, Big 12 now has 16. I would love to see a rebrand of some sort, but I know that might ruffle some feathers. But who cares if you upset some people in Oklahoma or Kansas or whatnot? Like, who really cares? What we care about is having multiple teams in the college football playoff. I think our conference deserves it this year, but we're not going to get that benefit this year. I think we're going to be a one-bid team.
Yeah, and that's one of the elements of it too, right? Is essentially because Boise State only lost was by 3 points to Oregon, the Big 12 is going to kind of get overlooked, even though if you look at Arizona State or BYU's, full resume, it definitely looks a lot better than, I guess what people would kind of generally say without having any sort of, backstory too. But it's funny you mentioned the geographical element of the conferences too, because I sit there and say to myself, a lot of what I tend to miss about college football is those storylines that you get every single year. Like, for example, you talk about the ACC, like we don't even get North Carolina versus South Carolina anymore, because ever since South Carolina, they've been in the SEC forever. They don't really have time to play that sort of schedule. And then even if you think about Missouri being in the Big 12 and now they're in the SEC, it's just those things kind of all coming together that makes you think to yourself. It is also just fun just to think about the hypothetical conversations you can come up with too, right?
Yeah, I do wonder if at some point we'll see kind of more, if these conferences will get so big that in a sense more regionality will be brought back to college football, which I think would be great. But also, like, I never thought, like 5 years ago, Rob, I never thought I would be thinking about this at this point in 2024. But I almost kind of missed the BCS in a sense. Because of how they're ranking strength of schedule, kind of all those things, style points, the way in which you play and win, your margin of victory really matters. And I feel like now, at least in the college football playoff era, we've kind of just seen conference perception matters more. Overall school brand matters more. And I don't know if that's always what's best for the integrity of the game, but who are we kidding, Rob? We are fans of the most soulless and heartless sport there is, which is college football.
That's what I mean. I don't even want to get into the weeds too much with that because I have a lot to say. But if it was up to me, I would be happy if it were just 2 or 4 teams again. Because I think this season has shown in a couple different instances that there's almost too many teams, in the sense that, yes, you have your 12 teams, but at the same time, no matter how it turns out, someone's always going to feel screwed in a sense, right? Like every SEC fan's going to say to themselves, "Oh, how come Alabama's not in, or how come Texas A&M's not in, or whatever." Compared to when you had before, it actually meant something when you go undefeated or you win your conference, because there is really no bye weeks anymore. But also, in the sense too, it does help that December window isn't there anymore. They only have the one in the spring now, so that's definitely going to help a lot in terms of my complaint in terms of bowl games having players opt out. And granted, it is a little hypocritical that coaches do the same thing, but at the same time, it's a little bit different in the sense of things move so much faster in terms of a coaching perspective that if you're North Carolina, for example, who their job just opened up, you can't sit there and wait until January to open up that spot. You have to hire them, boom, with a snap of a finger, especially if you go after a Jamie Chadwell at Liberty, for example.
Yeah, I would still like to see some changes made to how the playoff is determined. I'm not the biggest fan of giving right now with it being the top 5 conference winners when really it's kind of Power 4. Like essentially you're giving the G5 an automatic bid. I think that is kind of crazy right now. But again, I would just love to see, these teams kind of held to more of a same standard. And it's very clear that some teams get more of the benefit of the doubt than others. But I am glad that they've changed this transfer portal stuff. You're not going to see, think like Georgia, Florida State, that was a huge blowout
Dude,
last year.
don't
You
get
had
me
all
started
those
about
players
that.
entering the portal. It was messed up. You see Brian Kelly leaving in the middle of a college football playoff berth at Notre Dame because he doesn't want to miss that first transfer portal window. I'm glad they're cleaning those things up. How do we bring more general integrity to this sport, Rob? I don't know. I have very little hope.
That's what I mean. There's always going to be an angle. There's always going to be a perspective, and there's especially too with so many other teams now moving to the FBS. I mean, you got Delaware and Missouri State now, so it's only just going to get bigger and bigger, and the problems really need to get larger and larger. Especially when you think about the House settlement that's going to be coming down probably by the beginning of 2025 at some point too. So I'm sure the aftermath of that will be talking about during the off season. But David, it was great talking to you. I'm sure you're going to be coming on more. And, for everybody listening, definitely follow David Talks Buffs on YouTube, Twitter, and wherever else you're on.
Rob, I really appreciate it, man. This has been a lot of fun. Let's be sure to connect again soon. And yeah, any of my friends that are watching this show, give Rob a sub. This guy is hustling unlike anyone else I've seen on YouTube, man. You're putting out fantastic content. Keep up the good work. And hey, enjoy the rest of your college football season, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks. And, definitely looking forward to talking college football with you soon too.
Absolutely.